The second China International Import Expo is underway in Shanghai with nearly 2,000 foreign companies in attendance. How does China and the companies that participate hope to benefit from the expo? Then, in our special series on the UN in China, a 40-year partnership, we'll learn how one UN agency has worked with Chinese companies to protect the ozone layer. Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you live from Beijing. I'm Li Qiuyuan, sitting in for Liu Xin. Now, the second annual China International Import Expo kicked off this week in Shanghai to spotlight China as much more than the world's largest exporter, but also one of its leading importers. Food and agriculture is a major theme of this year's expo, which runs from November 5th to 10th. And foreign importers are responding positively, with nearly 2,000 companies participating from some 120 countries and regions. Now, this includes more American and European companies than at last year's inaugural expo. So what sort of benefits do foreign companies hope to derive from this expo? And more specifically, how are Western companies positioning themselves today amid talk that a truce in the China-U.S. trade war may be imminent? Joining the discussion in our Beijing studio is Mr. Hongjian, Director of Department of European Studies at the China's Institute of International Studies. And also from Paris, Professor Joav Toker, a China-EU specialist at the American Graduate School in Paris. Thank you for joining us, to you both. So let's talk about this. At the CIIE, the Chinese president called for consultation and cooperation to resolve whatever differences and frictions arise in global trade. But beyond the politics of bilateral relations, and despite the twists and turns of the trade war, foreign companies are turning out in greater numbers than last year. So, Professor, let's talk about this. Global Fortune 500 companies in attendance are requiring more exhibition space, while U.S. companies reportedly occupy the largest exhibition space. Why do you think so many Western firms are attending this year's expo, first of all, Professor Toker?
For the obvious reasons, which have been constant in that sense for almost a generation, I would say, in a large view, because of the attractivity of the Chinese economy and the Chinese structure. Now, beyond those general, somehow banal statements, I would say that the particular situation, the circumstances which characterize the point in time, in economic time we're right in, I mean the trade war, I mean the tension between the two giants, China and the US, the number of question marks which is there in the air regarding this trade war, but regarding so many other international issues, makes an opportunity from the point of view of Western companies, let them be American or European or others, from their point of view, an occasion such as the Shanghai Expo right now is an excellent one on the economic, commercial, pure values, but also in a larger sense in terms of checking on the terrain, in terms of investing the presence in the medium and long run beyond the numbers, then the amount of money they'll be able to sell directly over these a few days of the expo. So you have all the good reasons, the immediate, the medium run, and the long run reasons to be present in Shanghai these days.
Mr. Sui, your thoughts on this? I mean, the fact that more American firms are attending, that says a lot about these companies' commitment to the Chinese market despite the trade war.
Indeed, we can find what's the basic requirement, especially for the average people. As we know, when we are facing some problem, maybe for the last or past, I mean, globalization, I think there will be now many reactions. One of them is to have some more positive attitude, just like Chinese government did now for this import expo, because we need to, find out a more approach to support this world economy and more international trade. Of course, another more negative way is to have some more trade wars, like some countries. But now I think we can find out the correct answer or correct response from the average people, from the business sectors, that once we have some more positive approach and reaction to some negative trend, certainly we can find this common interests, not only for Chinese people, for Chinese business, and also for American and European people and the business.
And Mr. Cui, again, very interestingly, fresh food, processed food, and agricultural products are a major theme of this year's expo, as we mentioned. Why is that?
Firstly, I think the very simple reason is China is a very populous country. We have a billion people. So I think there's a lot of requirement on the food. At the same time, I think it's also in the process of China's goal to have a high quality, life for average people. So I think that's also the reason why recently, not only for this expo, I think recent years, there are more and more, import. In Chinese market, you can find fruits or some foods from European country, from American or from some other. Right. So I think it's a very natural, stage for Chinese economy and the social development, and also it's a kind of more, I think it's a kind of a complementary structure is emerging between China and the other part of the world.
And just from your observation here in China, which other industries are prominently promoted or have a significant presence at the expo, Mr. Cui?
I think if we look at this process of the Chinese economy, we can find out, yes, there will be some new requirement for China's market. For example, besides this food and high quality service, and especially some insurance or some other service industry, I think that would be growing points for Chinese economy. And also some high quality furnitures or some other, I think indeed, because if those companies from other countries could know more about the Chinese economy, about the Chinese market, they can find more growing points to sell their products in Chinese market.
And Professor Toker, a lot of countries are watching how this expo is going there in Shanghai. Some have criticized the CIIE as being more for Chinese PR purposes rather than for concrete deals. But that hasn't been the experience of, for example, the U.S.-China Business Council or its members. The Council's Vice President of China Operations earlier said significant numbers of purchases made at last year's event were fulfilled and fully executed. Again, despite the trade war uncertainty, do you expect many more deals to be struck as a result of this year's expo? What's your expectation, Professor Toker?
I think, generally speaking, that the argument is if the expo is sort of a PR, public relation exercise on the Chinese side, would be a negative argument is somehow strange. Because there's nothing more normal in a way that, a country, let it be any country, not necessarily the #2 economy on earth, organizing such a huge event, then it would, among other things, contribute to its soft power, to its, yes, PR effort. But that's legitimate. That's part of the way you do business, both ways. That's part of what lets other partners get an extra idea of who you are if you are the Chinese economy. Now, what is the direct correlation between all these and the amount of money, the figures which we will have in a few days or a bit later in terms of the overall selling and buying amounts? I think it's a little bit early. But according to the perspectives I saw on both the European and American side, they do not expect, they are expecting more difficult ways of provisions and the more difficult way of just seeing what's coming ahead because of the overall context, because of the overall question marks which are there over trade war, etc., not because of characteristics related to the expo in Shanghai itself.
Now, one reported sticking point of the trade war with the United States is its trade deficit with China. And some observers have suggested that Beijing launched this import expo 1 year ago to alter that perception of China as predominantly a manufacturing engine and exporter. Professor, do you agree with that? Why do you think that China launched this expo in the first place? And if perception is an issue, through this expo and other efforts, do you think China is successfully changing those perceptions?
Is the question put to me in Paris?
Yes, Professor Toker, to you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I think that would be logical and would make sense that was, you know, one of the reasons. And that's, once again, that's legitimate. That's fair play, if you wish. Yes, you are right in this statement, which is on the basis of your question, because Chinese economy and Chinese policies, in a larger sense, are perceived as, in a way, done differently than the way parallel economic trade and politics would be done, say, in the West, in Europe, in the United States and elsewhere in the Western world. And yes, the first expo was indeed under the focal point of export, whereas this one very clearly states, starting with the title of the expo, that it's an import-export structure, and this indeed, I guess, was that in order to improve the overall image of Chinese economy in terms of the... You shouldn't forget, I mean, it's one of the well-known things, but it may be useful to mention it in this point in our conversation. The idea, the general idea that China is exercising an aggressive economic, commercial trade policies and using in a very efficient way its type, the numbers, the quantities, and its centralized nature, and the commercial techniques to its advantage has been here, you know, in the world for a long time, and has been aggravated, if you wish, over the last 5 to 10 years. So it would be normal on the Chinese side to try to temper that in a way. And if you wish, it would be also normal facing China to see those points, understand them better, and perhaps become better partners, better commercial partners of China in the long run.
And now when it comes to its impact on China-EU relations, Mr. Cui, with the word that a trade war truce may be in the offering, Macron's visit to China and his presence here at the Expo has sparked some speculation that it reflects a degree of, quote, panic on the parts of Europeans. I mean, the rationale is that any China-U.S. trade deal might negatively impact the EU, especially if the Trump administration then targets Europe for new tariffs. Do you think that this might be driving Macron's visit here, as well as the desire to improve bilateral China-EU relations?
I hope this kind of panic feeling will not be the you know, expectation or the reason President Macron visited China at this moment and also participating in this expo. I think that now not only France and also European countries should go out from this kind of suspicion about the China-US relations or tensions, because we find that a very interesting situation now for most of the European countries. Once they are still stay in this feeling, once there is a trade, the deal between China and US, they will be worried about maybe the interests of European countries will be sold by China and the US. Once there is not a deal between China and the US, they will also, you know, feel panic about the forthcoming trade war at a global level. So I think now the right way for European countries, including France, is they need to find out the real, I mean, potential and real common interests with China. And with there are more and more trade between China and Europe, more investment between two sides, I think they will you know, provide more stability to the world. I think once this happens, I think this trade issue between China and the US, even between US and Europe, will be, you know, drop, and will be less and less sense.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there, running out of time. Many thanks to Mr. Hongjian of the China Institute of International Studies and Professor Joav Toker from the American Graduate School in Paris. We'll now take a short break, but when we return, how did one UN agency cooperate with its Chinese partners to reduce damage to the ozone layer and better protect society? Stick around.